Aloha guys, welcome to another After Effects tutorial. My name is Jada Scanlon, and in the last tutorial we covered a few of the basics. So opening up a new composition, importing these different media types um, into our composition, and just placing them onto our timeline. Now we want to actually organize some of this, and we're going to show you a few of the tools that we have up here in the tools panel. So let's get started. So the first thing we have, we left off with our image, our video, and our sound effect. We can now talk about some of these tools that we have on hand that we will be able to use within this project. I will only cover a few of them, not all of them, because we honestly won't be able to use them in our project. But you're free to choose, you're free to play around with them and see what outcomes you can come up with. So with what we have right here, um, let's begin. So first we have our image selected. Right now we have the selection tool selected, and as you hover over it, it shows you a keyboard shortcut. So it shows that the letter V on keyboard will direct you to having this selection tool, and the selection tool just moves around uh, the element that's being used, or the footage, the image, whatever is placed in your stage. And that's pretty much it. You just use this for scaling and moving things around, expand and you can make them smaller depending. So that's your selection tool. The next is our hand tool, and that will be H on your keyboard. And all the hand does is it moves the stage around. As you can see, the stage is being moved out of place, and the reason why you'd use the hand tool is if you wanted to zoom in on something and then use the hand tool to move the stage and not the actual image or footage. So you can see how that can be handy when using it. So we can put this back, and that is our hand tool. The next one is our zoom, and you have your you could just click to zoom, but as we've already shown in the shortcuts, if you use the period and the comma signs or buttons on the keyboard, you can actually zoom in and out quite freely, and it's a lot faster. The next is our rotation tool, which is W on our keyboard, and what that does is it rotates whatever is selected at that point in time. So you have your rotation from right to left. You can play around with it. Remember that to undo is Control Z or Command Z on a Mac. So you have your rotation tool right there. You can rotate anything that's selected, so except for sound obviously. But if we moved our video to the top so that it's visible, so now we have our video selected and we can rotate that around. So that's the rotate tool. Also, you notice that we can only rotate left or right. We can't really do much else. But later on we'll talk about layers and about 3D space, and you'll really like that one. Instead of just rotating left and right, you can also rotate up and down, to create some pretty cool effects. But we'll cover that later on. The next one is our pan behind tool, and what this does is there's an anchor point which is always or usually in the center of an image or footage. And when selecting these and when you're wanting to move them around, this is key if you want to when it comes to using the camera and other layers, because they will focus on this point. So say if you wanted to zoom out in an animation and your anchor point is here, when you zoom out, it's going to zoom out from this area right here. When you zoom in, it's going to fall right on that area. Usually we want to keep it in the middle, because when you keep it in the middle, when you zoom in and out, it looks a lot more natural. It looks like it's actually going to the center, and then when it zooms out from the center, it just looks, organized. So that's your pan behind tool. The next are our masking tools. And masking tools, what they pretty much do is you can select an area and then you can mask in or mask out different portions of the selected footage, image, or whatever. So right now we have our video, and if we create our mask right here, by the way, with these tools that have a little arrow on the bottom, if you click and hold, you actually have different shapes that you can create your masks with. But with the mask tool, which is Q on the keyboard, as you can see, it's only showing half of the footage, and you can actually play around with some of these tools. With the mask you can add or you can subtract, so it will subtract the area that you highlighted, or it can add the area that you highlighted and mask out the other area. For masking, you can kind of see, if you've ever seen any movies or any video clips that have clones, which are two of the same person, you can easily see that, you can use the masking tool to mask out one half of the screen so that you can place in the second half, which it would be, another version of the actor. So you can have two of the same people in one shot by using this mask tool. Let's undo that. And then your other masking tool is the pen tool, which is G on your keyboard. Click and hold, and you have all these different versions of the pencil. You can add a vertex or add a dot or minus a dot depending on the shape that you play around it. If you've used Adobe Photoshop or any of those, it's the same concept with the pen tool. You can draw shapes, you can make curves by clicking, holding and dragging them around, and playing around with it. But this is a more customized shape that you can create, and as you can see, it's masked out, and because it's on add, the area that has been highlighted is the one that shows. But if you want to subtract what you've selected, you just do subtract like we did in the last mask. So those are the two masking tools that we have, the pen tool and the marquee tool, rectangle tool. And then so that's for masking purposes. Finally is our text tool, and that is pretty self-explanatory. The text tool is just allows you to insert text of any kind into your composition, and as you can see, it creates its own layer. And the reason being is, as we'll show you later on, is that we can animate any of these elements, whether it's the text, whether it's our video, whether it's our picture or our sound. We can edit those, and we can really play around with some of these. Actually, let's go ahead and try to show you a few things you can do with this text layer at this point in time. Next to the effects and presets will be your character panel. If you do not see it, you can go to your window and you can select character. All of these right here you can click to view the different windows that are available with all the different options. So right now IDD 302, and we have all these. You can play around with some of the text, the fonts. You have the different colors. You have a solid color, so you picked a red for a solid color, and then you can even do an outline color. When it has a line through, that just means it's transparent, meaning there's no color. So if we select it and actually put a color on it, as you can see, we have something going on right here. And then if you adjust right here the pixels, which is the stroke, you can actually make that outside solid more solid. Then you have your normal paragraphing positionings. You have the size of your text, which you can adjust either through the text box, or you can use the selection tool and just drag aside and just play around with all these settings. But if we want to get rid of any of these colors, we can always click on the transparent button and then remove any of those colors that we want. But we want to at least just keep a solid white color. And that's pretty much it for our tools, really quick. Now the last thing we want to look at is our layers. Let me get rid of a couple of these. I'll get rid of you can always delete these layers just by selecting them. If you want to select multiple, it's the same thing. You can either click one and then hold control and click another, or if you want to click a few in a row, you can click the top, hold shift, and then click the bottom and it highlights all of them. I only want to delete just these two, and then just hit the delete button on the keyboard and we have gotten rid of those layers. So right now we only have our text and our video layer. Now I'm going to basically just show you some of our basic layers that we have to introduce. First we have our text layer, which we already created using the T tool button, which was already in our tools panel. And then also another layer that we can create is a solid layer, and the solid layer is pretty much just a solid layer. So right now we can make it a composition size, and we can change the color if we wanted to. It doesn't really matter unless it's dependent on what you're trying to do. But say if we kept it white, hit OK, make sure it's composition size, and what it does, it creates a new layer with the solid white. And then what we can do is if we went over here to our tools, and we can make a circle of some sort with our mask. We can just play around with it. Just some of the things that you can do with a what do you call it, a solid. Some mask settings right here, you can blur out, and you can come up with some pretty cool effects. But that's pretty much the solid layer that we have as one of the layer possibilities. The second is the light camera. Right now let's just play with the adjustment layer. Now the adjustment layers are very important when it comes to using visual effects. Let's just get rid of this. You can also hide layers by clicking on the eye, and when the eye is not present, that means that you have removed visibility of that layer. And so an adjustment layer, let me just show you, move this video up. So right now the video is pretty plain, but then you have all these effects that you can play around with. I'm not gonna go through any of these because I want you to play around with them and see what you can come up with. But let me just show you what you can pull off. So right now we have our video. I'm in the effects and presets window here, which you can find here in the windows as well. Effects and it's already checked, so we're good. And you can add some, like you can colorize it. You can add a glow. That's probably what I'd do. So you can click and drag this. Now the reason why we have adjustment layers is we want to make all our visual effects present only on the adjustment layer and not on the intro video or on our footage. The reason being is because if you drag any of these effects onto your footage, you actually make that footage a larger size, which takes a long time to render. It's really hard to kind of get around that. So we want to use an adjustment layer instead, because then it takes up less room and you can render it a lot quicker. And as you can see, we now have a glow on our footage. Note that that actually looks pretty cool when it shadows. It looks like a little bright stuff. Anyways, so for the adjustment layer, when playing around with it, you want to make sure that you always have an adjustment layer to create these visual effects within your composition and when working with footage. The other layers that we have are the light and camera layers and null object layers and shape. All these layers here we won't talk about at this time, but in the next tutorial we will start talking about the camera layer and maybe the light layer. We'll see how much time we have. But the camera layer, we will talk about 3D space in our next tutorial, and then we will show you how to animate and get onto our very first project. Thank you for watching. My name is Jayla Scanlon. I hope you learned a lot today and took some things away, and feel free to ask me any questions, and then we will see you in our next tutorial.